Okay, guys, so I've got these amazing women on this panel with me today, and we are talking all about leadership in a crisis. Show of hands, have any of you guys ever had to be a leader? Something in your life when you just did not want to adult? Yeah? Yeah, me too. See, 7 years ago, for those of you who don't know me, I had one of the world's smallest babies on the planet. She was only 12 ounces and 10 inches long. That's an inch shorter than a Barbie doll. I didn't want an adult. I wanted my mama to fix everything for me. That's really what I wanted. I also had 2 businesses at the time, and I also was newly married. Well, fast forward, 7 years later, we just celebrated her birthday. I am now happily divorced, and I'm only running one company, and it is killing it. But I had to be a leader over that a lot. And so there's 3 things that I love talking about. And I wanted to invite these ladies to do this with me, because I'm sure you guys can all be thinking about a crisis or something that you've gone through, hello 2020, that you have gone through. And I have a challenge for you at the end. But first, Jennifer Watson, can I get a round of applause? We've got Julie Riley. And we've got Sarah Kelsey. How awesome is that uniform outfit, right?
It's a uniform.
All right, ladies, so this is the way we're gonna do it. We also are gonna get up off the chairs. We're gonna work this stage like we like to, because we're not gonna sit in the corner. And the first question for whoever wants to take it is, tell us about a time in your life, and we're all gonna get a chance to answer, when you did not want to be a leader. Something that was personal to you, and it was only you, and you had to stand up and be a leader for it. And I want all of you to also think about this too. Maybe even write it down, because it will come back to us at the end of this session. Who wants to take it first?
I'll go.
Go for it, Julie.
Okay, so we all know last year was nuts. But let's talk about how I started last year. I started last year by deciding to take a DNA test to find out what my genealogy was. Be careful if you ever take one. You might open Pandora's box and find out your dad isn't your dad. Yeah, so I had to figure out not only how to manage that, I had my mother on a phone breaking down in absolute hysterics, trying to apologize, trying to say how sorry she was, what happened, telling me all of these pieces. So I had to, at that moment, put myself aside to deal with her and to try to manage her through that process. Then to manage my dad through that process. Then to find out who is my real dad and go through all of that. I've since found him. He actually lives in Cleveland, and I'm gonna go see him this weekend after the event. Yeah, but all I wanted to do was curl up in a ball, curl up in a corner. And I couldn't, because everybody else was also falling apart. And somebody had to step up and take that leadership to say, we can't fall apart. The world doesn't get to stop, and we have to keep going. And it was painful. And I'm still processing it and still going through it and still going through the emotions and the ups and the downs every day. And I don't know if I'll ever fully process it. But it's those moments where you have to just take control and take that leadership and go, okay, you stop, we're gonna talk through this. You over here, we're gonna talk through this. And we're all gonna manage this and all be okay.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Who's next?
I can go.
Go for it.
I'll go. I'll do that, guys. So now that we're all getting personal and everything, I like how we're getting deep right now, guys. I feel like this is like a therapy session. I went through a divorce not too long ago, and it was sort of in the public eye, kind of, just a little bit, because I am a meteorologist, and at that time I was at the Weather Channel. And I was their social media specialist, also appeared on one of their TV shows, now 2, which is really exciting. But you know, divorce is emotional, and you go through a lot of emotions, a big range of emotions. And sometimes I didn't even want to get out of bed. But the number one thing is taking care of my daughter, right? I had to push everything aside and also my career as well. And you learn very fast. There's been so many times when I was in local TV and then doing other things at the Weather Channel, whether it's recording or going live on their social media channels, is that you have to compartmentalize things. It doesn't matter how bad your day is going, but you can't let one thing snowball into another. And I learned that day that I had to be so strong and not only taking care of my daughter, but going through that whole process that I can get through anything, no matter what it is, no matter what the world throws at me. And so it was a big learning process, very emotional, but it's one of those things that, if you're waking up in the morning and you're struggling, know that there are other people that are likely struggling too, but no matter what it is, you can get through it and learn different coping mechanisms so it doesn't snowball into other parts of your life that are going well, because my career was going great. And so I didn't want that to inhibit anything else. So I always stayed professional. I didn't post anything on social media. I kept it, people found out through, friends and other things, but I just stayed true to me. And I'm just very proud of that. And I've learned that, my business is my business. And I keep it that way for everything else that happens in my life as well. But just no matter what, try and find coping mechanisms that you're dealing with. But that was a time that I had to be a leader for myself. And when I didn't want to get out of bed or even work, I still did because I didn't want everything else to fall apart in my life. So for those of you struggling through something, I hear you.
What's your favorite coping mechanism?
That's a very great question. For me, I don't know if I should stand back up, but so before I get out of bed, I love that, every single morning, I visualize how I want my day to go. And I don't just say, okay, my to-do list. I actually visualize me succeeding, whether it's recording a show or, I have a really big work meeting, but I go through the emotions of it's going to be successful, and at the end of the day, how I'm going to feel when I accomplish all of those tasks and I do succeed. So I do that, I get that in my head that I'm going to rock my day and it's going to be amazing no matter what happens, and I just go and do it. And that's how it happens.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Sarah, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I think I might know what it is, but enlighten us.
Is there something specific you want me to say?
Oh, no. You're a cannonball.
Is that a loose cannon, or is that what you...
May I draw attention to this amazingness that is this jacket that you did yourself.
And the pants.
Yes.
So I'm
pants.
guessing it might have something to do with Schwartzky. Whatever they're called.
Swarovski. So you went skiing and it was terrible and you broke both of your legs and you're like, I'm never doing this again. So you swore off skiing. Swarovski. Okay, so I too have a fun divorce story, but that's a story for a different day and many cocktails. So my leadership experience this year, we all know 2020 was an absolute blast. Insert sarcasm here. So obviously, I have a thing for rhinestones. Right, and the word bedazzle makes my skin crawl, but that's what we do. My company, we're professional bedazzlers. We like to call it crystallizing. That being said, our main ingredient is Swarovski crystal, right? And I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. There's a Swarovski store in Columbus, whatever, blah, blah. Cool, fine. So in addition to all of the other madness of 2020, we get a phone call in November, so a month before Christmas, that says, hey, by the way, we're closing all house accounts. So a month before Christmas, my stone supplier vanishes. And I said, okay, well, how long do I have until my accounts close? And they said, well, you have until December 19th. I'm like, oh, fantastic, we have a year, we can. And they said, no, this December 19th. I was like, oh, cool. So can I maybe mortgage my building and bulk buy, right? Can I buy a couple $100,000 worth of crystal, because that's kind of what we go through. And they said, no, you can only buy 50% of your purchases from last year. All right, cool. Well, let me think on that. So this is the equivalent of now marketing running out of internet, okay? Or a baker not being able to get sugar. This is a huge deal. And my team, my youngest employee is 55, so I'm surrounded by grown-ups for a reason. They panicked. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna close? And I never got mad, right? My clients were livid, and I've got some, I know you girls, Michelle especially, it was like, forget Swarovski, they don't care about, I mean, they were mad, and I got some colorful messages in my inbox, right? and I was never mad. I was nervous, but at the same time, I have this really unhealthy allergy to failure. Like, it doesn't even cross my mind what the things that can go wrong. And I think that's either a curse or a blessing. And so far, it's worked out really good. So instead of throwing in the towel, instead of throwing away, I have a degree in Chinese. My big girl job was a translator for Mandarin. And then I started bedazzling, and now here we are. So that being said, we didn't have an option, right? Failure wasn't an option. So I started Googling and making phone calls and sending emails, and instead of, because we had the option to sign on with other crystal brands. There's not a ton of crystal brands, but we had the option to go kind of where everybody else was going and say, okay, well, now we use this brand of crystal. But my fear was, well, what if this is like relationship based? Like, what if they break up with me in 2 years again? You know, so, and I already have abandonment issues, and this wasn't helping. So instead of signing on with somebody else, we just decided to create our own crystal line. So that being said, because we own the stones, we've taken something that normally would cost us money, right? We have to buy the crystals. Since we own them now we can wholesale to other designers. We can sell to our competition, which sounds kind of counterproductive, but it's not. Like, it's an okay thing to do. And then we don't run the risk of the carpet getting jerked out from underneath us again. So in addition to all of the mess that 2020 was, what could have been, I mean, I would have had to go on to get a real job, and I'm not sure what I put on my resume, like, I'm real good at gluing crystals on things, like, nobody's gonna hire that. So definitely didn't want to be a big girl in November, but I don't have children, I'm allergic to them. So my company is like my whole big life, and it wasn't ever an option to fail. And I guess I didn't realize I was being a leader because I was too busy
Leading. Yeah.
There it is. So that's my story. So.
That was amazing. Thank you for, I had no idea. So what I love about all of this right now is that compartmentalizing, stood up and did what had to be done, and just took charge and found solutions, didn't get mad, right? And I think all of us can like figure that out, right? You have to compartmentalize and get through the crisis first. Because if you can't do that, then the next two things we're gonna talk about, dealing with your interpersonal relationships, those people who you live with or who you love, or your best friends or your lovers or family, all of them, you're worthless to them unless you can take care of yourself first. And I think a lot of us miss that because we look after other people so much. So let's shift into that, ladies, and tell us a quick example about something that happened in your life with other people that you had to stand up and be the leader and lead through, and how that didn't stop you and your momentum from your own professional career. Who wants to go first?
I feel like I should have saved my story.
I think we all have multiple stories. I can go for this one. I'll go first.
Go for it.
Okay, so I love this. This is like true therapy session.
You all had the questions beforehand.
I know. And this is like, I mean, I had
Real
an idea.
and raw at Social Media Week Lima 2021.
It is. Okay, so this kind of actually ties into what I was just talking about before, but in a different way. So I used to work at Agora Pulse, which is an amazing company. If you don't have a social media management tool, you need to get it. My former boss, Mike Alton, is over there. And guess what? We used to produce an amazing live show when I was there. He was my producer. He was incredible. Mike, I don't know if you know this story, actually.
Juicy. Do tell.
I know. No, this isn't like, this is kind of a sad story. But yeah. But anyway, so right before I had one of my good friends, Amanda Robinson. She was a guest on our show. I think this was like our third or fourth show ever, Mike. I get a text message from my mom, and she was like, Jen, can we talk? And I was like, I was like, no. And usually my mom's like, oh, Jen, have a great day. It's awesome. Life is great. Like that's her. And she never text messages me, like, can you call me? And so I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, we're about getting ready for the live show. She's like, it's okay. Call me after. So I was like, okay, but I knew deep down something was very wrong. And so I had to be strong in that moment, not just for my business. And I know Mike, if I had told my boss, he would have been like, Jen, it's okay, I can cover the lie. I know he's nodding right now. He's probably mad that I didn't even tell. I know. I'm sorry, Mike. This is true. But I managed to focus. I had like 10 minutes before the live. I'm like, I got this. And it was an amazing show. We kicked butt like always. And it was awesome. And I called my mom after the fact, and my dad was in the hospital, and they thought he had a stroke, which ended up being something very similar with the bleeding in the brain. So it was a very scary time. Mike, I don't know if I told you that either. I know, I'm sorry. I need to open up to my bosses more. Learning experience right now. But what I realized I had to do in that moment was with my family. My mom was in the hospital, and I'm lucky enough that I could bring my daughter to her dad and go there and be there to support my family, and trying to do whatever I could, but I had to be strong. This is kind of similar to Julie's story. Like my mom's just surviving, trying to make it through while they're in the hospital. I had an older sister. She was out of the country, and so there's all sorts of things going on, and I had to be strong, not only for myself but for my family, and for my career too. I managed to get through the live. It was incredible. It was amazing, but it was just another moment of okay, this thing is happening. I feel like something bad is, going on, but I was able to set that aside, focus on the immediacy of what I was doing, and then get back to that. It can be very hard to do that, but I was able to do that, and then supporting my family after the fact. So you got this, guys. I feel like this is motivation. But, no matter what happens, you can always get through it and thrive.
Love that. Thank you for sharing.
So I'm going to take this next, and I'm going to kind of try and flip it. Like we're talking about strength and emotional strength, and there's a whole bunch of it up here. My strong was laying down.
Yes.
Like my strong.
Yes.
So I'm obviously in the horse world, okay? And so in college and all growing up or whatever, trained horses, broke horses in college, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Thought I had a bad hip. I was 35 at the time, and it just always kind of bothered me, and I just kind of ignored it, and I sit a lot, right? I sit and I crystallize. So in September, so 2 years ago this September, it's really bad. Like I am laying on the floor of Spokane International in tears. Like I didn't even care about germs. That's how bad I hurt. So I get back to Ohio, and I'm in a meeting with a client, and I did not know that pain could get so bad you'd be physically ill. Like that's a thing. Yeah. So I excused myself to the ladies' room, and I come back, and she said, are you okay? And I'm like, you know what? I'm really not. And I had this like shooting pain down my left leg. And I think at this time, I'm like, well, it's a bad hip. I'll just get it replaced like, at 35 and go on with my life. Right. So I called my husband, and I said, hey, this is really bad, and can you take me to the ER? And I called my team, and I said, hey, I'm going to get a cortisone shot because, that fixes everything. And I'll be back by 4. And they said, okay, fine, no worries. So my husband takes me to the ER, and by this time, I am a wreck. I am like, and if I thought the floor of Spokane International was gross, let me tell you about laying on the floor of the ER at Lima St. Rita's Hospital. That is how I literally gave 0 cares. See how I could have swore there and I didn't, right? You guys were waiting. So long story short, I get admitted. This is a Monday at like 10 a.m. Tuesday, the very next day at 2 in the afternoon, they are cutting me open for emergency back surgery. I had discs that were pushing on my spinal cord so bad that it was causing drop foot and some other really not cool side effects. And I had never taken a day off of my company since I started it. And for the thought of me not answering Facebook messages, not answering emails, not interacting with my clients was more terrifying than the surgery. But what it did was teach me that my team can take care of this.
Yes.
My clients will wait. I don't sell heart catheters. I mean, I deal with pageant moms, so you would think that we did, but we don't. That's terrible. Anyways.
Don't you love her?
She said I was a loose cannon. So my strength was realizing that I could take not only a day off, but 3 weeks off, lay flat on my back, medicated out of my mind, and during the busiest time of year, which is October for us, which is the Quarter Horse Congress, which also leads into the rodeo in Las Vegas, the NFR that we have to get ready for. If that would have happened, say, in April, it would not have been nearly as eye-opening to me that sometimes strength is letting go of the reins, no pun intended, but it has been, right? Is that what I did there? It was probably the most eye-opening experience, not even physically, I mean, everything's fine now, but forcing, forcing my hand open to let go of my company and realize that you don't have to have a chokehold on everything, Sarah. It's all gonna be okay, and it literally took me getting knocked flat on my back. So sometimes strength is the opposite of what you think it's gonna be. So,
amazing.
All right, cool.
Julie, tell us about a time when you had to lead over the interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, so mine's kind of still a continuation of what happened last year, because that became all-encompassing. You know, find out dad's not dad. COVID hits. My company is like in the toilet. Everything is falling apart and spiraling. And I realized through all of that, I had to take control of me. I had to take control of the one thing I could control. I couldn't control anything else that was happening out there. It was all happening. And all I could do was be along for the ride. So I decided it was time for me to take control of my health. I can actually thank Chad right here. He messaged me one day and said, hey, I'm doing some workouts on Zoom. You wanna join me? I used to work out religiously, and I'd stopped, and I'd let my health and my weight take control. And I had just said, you know what, I wasn't worried about that. And I said, yeah. And the first week, I was sore, and I was miserable, and I was tired. And I said, what am I doing? And what are you doing to me? But I kept showing up. And after a week, I wasn't as sore, and I kept showing up. And I found that through that, I could create that control over me and was feeling better and was feeling like there was something stable there. There was something that was happening that I was like, okay, this is now my me time, that now I can show up and be better for my family. I can show up and lead for them. We bought an RV in 2014. It needed work. Took a couple years to do the work on it. Okay, that makes it 2016, maybe 17. It still sat there. Last year I said, I'm done with it sitting there. We're taking this out to the lake. We are getting out of this house. It is somewhere we can go. It is something we can do. Our family fell in love with it. We started spending as many weekends as we could out at the lake, camping, bought a paddleboard, started taking that out paddleboarding, started playing football with my son out there, started getting that movement with my family and that control. And it was the thing that we could do together. And it was all that little one piece at a time that allowed me to say, I'm taking the leadership of this, and I'm taking the control, and I'm taking my family to get us away so we can all recharge and not only be better individuals, but be better with each other. Be less irritable with each other when you are locked in a house with people for months and months and months and months. And you're like, dear God, if you don't go back to work, I'm going to strangle you. I need you in school. This homeschooling stuff is for the birds. Anybody who loves it, kudos to you. I bow down because I am not a homeschool mama. My kiddo needed to go back to school. So that was what we could do to find that peace for us, each other. And so my strength is the physical strength that I found through all of that.
That was awesome. You guys, these stories are amazing. Julie, I love how you decided to completely take control over it, because I think one of the things that always suffer are our relationships that matter the most to us, right? Because we don't want to get out of bed, or we're just angry, or we're sad or depressed, or just don't have the feelings to do anything. So I made the team back there a promise that we were going to keep this to 30 minutes. And we got 5 minutes left, ladies. So I want maybe one of you to tell us a story or about leadership in your business. And then we're going to throw it to the audience really quick, too. So leave me some time for that, please. Who wants to go?
Why are you staring at me?
Okay, it's not my business, but we're taking it back to Agora Pulse. Mike, are you ready for this one? I see you
Agora
looking
Pulse
at
is
your
one of
phone
our
over there. I
amazing
see you looking at
sponsors.
your phone over there. They're also a sponsor. Okay, so
And there's swag over here, too,
Yeah.
so take it.
So COVID happened, right? It's like mid-March last year, and we're starting to realize like things are changing, like the days, like every single day it was something different, something new. We were having meetings and talking over the weekend, and so I wanted to start a Facebook group because I felt like I also needed this too as a social media manager, but like marketers, like what are we going to do? How can we market? Like, can we show people without masks anymore? What's the right messaging? Like the world is just kind of in shutdown, freaking out mode. And so I wanted to create a safe place for marketers and those of the like, anybody in business, entrepreneurs, to be able to communicate with each other and help support each other. So we started it. And Mike had a great idea about doing weekly lunch and learns, where we would have a guest and bring them in, and we'd do lives, and it would be 30 minutes, and we'd get very granular and help teach people things that they could implement directly into their business immediately. Our first guest was Marcus Sheridan, and we did that for I think about like 6 or 7 months, where we did it like weekly, and Mike was also the producer, and this community grew really fast. We didn't realize how many people needed this. We ended up so we started this group I think at the very end of March. By June we had a week-long conference, virtual conference within that group specifically, and we've grown it to over 5,000 members. I'm now not a part of the Agora Pulse team anymore, but it's a thriving community. And we've got Jeremy and Abby right there, who are basically moderators of the group that help us. And they are like super fans of Agora Pulse. And I noticed like they're amazing. They're Wholesome Media. They've got their own agency in Virginia, but they helped out as well. And so if you join the group, you can interact with them. But we realized it was a way for us to do leadership. And it really wasn't like we just thought people needed something, right? We wanted to help everyone out somehow during this uneasy, uncertain time. And so we realized we also needed it too. And it's now a thriving community, and we're going to continue it even once hopefully we get past COVID. But that was just an example of in the business world where we were able to pivot and take leadership and just help change and support people in their lives.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I want you all to think about, because I'm sure at some point you have to have related to one of these amazing ladies' stories, right? Something triggered in your head, oh yeah, I went through something like that too, or something terrible. And our challenge for you today is to find a silver lining in it and to find a way to reframe it and make it the most amazing lesson and blessing that came from it. Because I think through all of these stories that you can see, you have to lead through crisis over yourself, the people around you, and your business, even when you don't want to. Because if you don't, no one else is going to.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Nobody's coming to save
Nobody's
you.
coming
That's
to save
exactly
you.
right. And that's what's going to push your business through. It's about how many times you get back up faster and stronger and say, try me again, but it's not going to work that same way. I hope that you guys have connected with one of these stories today and got you thinking, but know that you always can do it, and know that you need you first. The people in your life need you, and then your business or your job needs you. Thanks, guys. We have a next session coming up. I'm not going to take your job, but it's going to be amazing. So do not even try to sneak out that back door.